Welcome to COVID 1984, which all began when someone ate bat soup. So what we've ended up with is bat shh. So how many months in now, and apparently we all still need face masks. But I'm reminded of the Skripal poisoning sort of event, if you believe that. And the place was locked down for God knows how long. Anyway, apparently, if the current pandemic is so bad, how come there aren't any biohazard disposable bins for your gloves and your masks? And, in the same way you have yellow biohazard sort of bins, how come there are none of those anywhere? Where are those bins? I mean, you'd expect to see them everywhere, wouldn't you? According to the official narrative. If the official narrative's true, you go, wow, we need to be really super safe and stick this stuff away in a bin somewhere. Yeah, or is that just me? And then you've got these images of police throwing people out of parks and off beaches and hillsides and mountains with their drones and stuff. But, it's okay to stand in a queue in the supermarket. They're saying, get out of this park, get off this mountain, get off this hillside. You're spreading it everywhere, but it's okay to go and stand in the supermarket queue. The worst thing you can do is wear a mask. I mean, you're increasing your carbon dioxide intake. You're breathing in your own breath, basically. That can't be good. You're breathing out carbon dioxide. You don't want to breathe it in. And that's what you're doing when you wear a mask. Now then, I don't know about you, and I don't know if this is reassuring or not, but have you noticed how the local sort of scallies and druggies that you sort of see, they've all got masks on? Like the conformant, I was in the queue in some supermarket, and some local scally round where I live, right piece of trash he is. The cashier said, about social distancing to me, she said, you have to go back. There's another line there if you look. I said, oh yeah, okay. So, I just stepped back and he was, yeah, man, yeah, you can't keep distance. The biggest drug dealing piece of trash on the planet is conforming. And staying on health, have you seen some of these health officials? I mean, man, they look a mess, don't they? They look like the least healthy people on the planet. I mean, for a pandemic, have you seen anyone who's been coughing and spluttering and falling over? Have you seen anyone drop down dead? If you go through your contacts list, is there anyone you've lost on there to COVID? Do you know of anyone who knows anyone who's lost someone through COVID, where it was pure COVID? Not like where they're in stage or phase 4 cancer, and they also, but George Floyd, who also proved positive for COVID-19. So you see, everyone is still believing, not knowing, but believing. Beliefs are what destroy the world, remember. You either know or you don't know. But instead, you've given way to believing, and that's the mistake. If you don't know something, then you just say, I don't know. And of course, what better time than now to notice that every single newspaper virtually has the exact same headline, stroke and or similar graphic, stroke and or same photograph. What does that tell you? And what kid has caught it at school? What kid has caught COVID-19 at school? Where's the school's outbreak? Now, you may have heard of a so-called government think tank called SAGE. And if you read their PDF, options for increasing adherence to social distancing measures, 22nd of March 2020. At the bottom of page 1 and the top of page 2, go to persuasion, paragraph number 2. Section 2 says, under the perceived threat, says the perceived level of personal threat needs to be increased among those who are complacent, using hard-hitting emotional messaging. To be effective, this must also empower people by making clear the actions they can take to reduce the threat. And of course, let's not forget that from Wednesday the 20th of May this year, every adult in England is automatically an organ donor. Check it out. As of June 15th, of course, the wearing of masks on public transport, buses in particular, is compulsory. So maybe the COVID was just waiting for its bus pass. There's also a lake in Buxton, somewhere around that area, known for its clear water. It's actually called the Blue Lagoon. And the police, of all people, dyed it black to stop people going in it and swimming in it. Yeah, I kid you not. Check it out. Now, on Twitter, there is a QC, George Peretz, or Peretz rather, QC, and he, over sex, right, COVID-19 sex. as I read this, unless you live together, now it's unlawful to have sex with your lover indoors, but fine outdoors, subject to public decency offences. But you can have sex with an escort indoors, as that is reasonably necessary for their work purposes. 7 subparagraph D, subparagraph 1. So he's had a look at the law. Some very strange laws being passed here that make no sense at all unless you live in Gotham City or RoboCop movie or Blade Runner 2049. The government's also saying that, if you leave the country and come back, it's 14-day quarantine. What does that remind you of? Come on, fire. I've been out the country. But it does only apply to tourists, you see, because, lorry drivers and diplomats and blah, blah, blah. Everyone's exempt except tourists or someone who just wants a break, say. Yeah. But of course, goods and services and things like that, like let's take wagons and stuff. How many people have touched those items within there compared to, a lone traveller? It's just crazy stuff. And let's not forget that the WHO says that COVID, unlike SARS, H1N1, bird flu and all that sort of stuff, may never go away. Now, I also had shown to me a job on Indeed.co.uk, the job finding site. There's a position for a social distancing security officer. Yeah, in Winsford. It's minimum wage, it's $8.95 an hour. But here's the thing. Check it out. Job reference 5325. It's permanent. Football stadium in Korea used sex dolls for fans in the seats. And in Germany, fans paid €20 in Germany for cardboard cutouts of themselves placed in the seats in the stands. One stadium in Denmark has put Skype screens in the seats so you can Skype in and cheer when, cheer the action. So there you go. I've got to cut out all this laughing. I mean, hey man, I was there. Now we also hear that Trump is going to mobilize the troops to, deliver the vaccines for people. And, I'm all in favor of that because if you're stupid enough to get the vaccine, you wanted to get the vaccine, let's get the army to give it. If you want to have it, the point is it's having the right not to have it. And that's the point. See what I did there? A Colombian design company are making cardboard hospital beds. This is what they say. That can be easily turned into a coffin if the patient dies. It's kind of like an origami bed. Go check it out. It's just... The Telegraph carried the story. And what you do is like when you die on the bed, they just push you down and the flaps fold over and then a lid is pulled out and sealed up. It's very, very strange. They say they're made for people with coronavirus. They say it means that if the person dies, the medics don't have to move the body. Why, it's brilliant. Did you notice how people during the COVID absolutely terrified to go out and get near each other? But, some career criminal dies. All right, everyone can accept how bad that was. And suddenly, it's a free-for-all. And what I love about it is, did you see the faces on all the looters? They were just so filled with grief, weren't they? Coming out with the flat screen TVs and stuff, So you need to just get things in perspective. So, where's Boris? Great Churchillian leader. Seems to conspicuous by his absence. So much for all that. Yes, we're going to, take control of things and all that. Wow, just going to get going now, yeah. One of the things I've don't understand about people who live in cities is they are so anti the system, right? And yet you're living in a city. You're living in the city, man, You can't get more system than that, control, told where you can go. If you really believe all that, then you go out into the country and be with nature, not in the system, not in the city. The city is the system. So let's get this right. Lockdown, no riot. Businesses smashed up through the economy. Assets stripped, no riot. Working class, assets stripped, wiped out, no riot. The high street and small businesses wiped out, no riot. Central banks print billion, trillion, zillions, no riot. That's all to buy assets that you have to work hard for, by the way. So amongst many of the reasons why the police stand down is because they're told to by those above them and above them and above them. What you're seeing is the deep state, it's broken cover, and everything is being run by a government, but not the one you elected. The real government's running things now. The likes of Boris Johnson and the parliamentary parties, they're just simply front of house. I mean, how did it get to this? So the likes of BLM and Antifa, PROFA as they should be called, which is the militia wing of the left, of course, in America and also in Britain, funded by certain people who we dare not speak their name, of course. What do they really want? Do they want to go in and loot all the shops for all the consumer goods? Or do they just want to smash up their own cities and neighborhoods? That's the question there. So defunding the likes of the police, that's really just another way of saying, I want crimes to happen. And if I commit a crime, I do not want to be held accountable. And of course, what better way to riot than in a mask? And I don't know if you've come across any of the footage in the United States of ordinary citizens who carry guns protecting businesses. And I feel quite reassured by that. Unfortunately, they're having to do that, of course, because there's no members of the local law enforcement community available because they're too busy just down the road taking the knee or at the big riot. And quite controversially, I also think it was nice to see them blocking off residential streets to protect them. How sad's that they're having to do that? And if you disagree with that, well, guess what? It worked. Did you notice in the photograph of the Democratic Party taking the knee, right? They also wore some tribal dress of the Ashanti Party, of the Ashanti tribe. But historically, they practiced slavery, right? These slaves came about through warfare and battles in which they became victorious. The aim of slavery varied as different slave masters acquired slaves either to increase wealth or intermarry. On the larger scale, slaves could also be used for sacrifice during funeral ceremonies. This was a practice done in accordance with the belief that slaves would follow their masters into the afterlife. Ashanti slave masters were known to treat slaves in a humane manner to the point that slaves could own slaves themselves. Any slave master who was found to treat slaves badly was frowned upon by the community. The slaves also had the chance to request a change of their master if they so believed they have been constantly mistreated. Because of the matrilineal type of culture, the Ashanti people, the slave master usually preferred to marry their slaves. This was because in a family setting, the wife's elder brother had control over his sister's children, especially the males, rather than the children's own father. The slave masters who wanted adequate control of their own children would prefer to marry a slave girl who didn't have any family who could intrude in his family's affairs. I want to see that movie. Ignorant virtue signaling Democrats, wear what they believe to be coloured scarves, uniting them with black African races. But in reality, the colours they're wearing signify the Ashanti tribe, who were known for selling slaves. One of my trending news citizen journalists I like at the moment is TR News. He's like an Australian geezer, and he's asking, he's a person of colour, and he's asking questions that people aren't asking. And it's interesting what the Caucasoid white middle class yogi sort of types, how they respond to his questions. Anyway, it's worth looking at. Always worth seeing the other side of the coin. He basically shows you that pinko militant Trotskyite Christo-socialist principal left-wing libtards don't like facts or anyone of colour going off script. Need to keep it real, keep it in perspective, and see what the real motives are behind anything with 3 letters. Now remember that to the government, no lives matter. I have a condition that prevents me from wearing a mask. It's called freedom. So guess what? I actually haven't stayed at home, okay? And I haven't wore a mask. And I haven't got coronavirus. So, until next time.